inspiration, stickers and playful creativity. As we are nearing the vernal equinox, or the first day of spring, that's on the 20th of March this year, if you live in the Northern Hemisphere like I do, I felt called to make a video not only about how to embrace the energy of spring, but also how to harness the energy of spring to reignite your creativity. So if you're looking for little ways to celebrate spring, but also for tips on how to reignite and reawaken your creativity, then this video is for you. And that's whether your creativity has been in hibernation for a couple of months over winter, or whether it's been in hibernation for years and you feel like you haven't been creative in forever. So the first item on my list, and this may seem a little bit cheesy, but I think it's really important, is to believe that you are creative. A lot of people believe that they're not creative, but they are. We all are. We were all creative when we were younger, but we just lose the opportunity to be creative, or we internalize pressures from the outside about being good enough. And usually the "oh, you're not good enough at something" literally just means you're not good enough to sell it. Like, we have like a little bit of a capitalist message that kind of ruins the fun of creativity, because we get told that if we're not good enough at something to do it for a job, then we shouldn't bother, or we get told that it's not a real job or it's not worth our time, basically. So we kind of just lose the connection to our creativity. We don't stop being creative, it just gets a little bit lost or a little bit buried. I think starting with working on believing that you are creative is really important, because it switches you back to that mindset. It changes your narrative. Yes, I am a creative person. It's not that I'm not creative. It's just that I just don't give myself opportunities to channel or express that creativity. And I think once you change to that, it becomes a lot easier to reignite creativity, because you realise that you haven't lost it. You just need to find your own personal way to channel it, and that will be different for everyone. So I want you to believe that now. Say to yourself, I am creative, I just don't give myself enough opportunities to express that creativity, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to allow myself to be creative for the sake of enjoying the process of creativity. And one of the ways that you can allow yourself more opportunities to be creative is to reconnect with your inner child wherever you can. The energy of spring is the energy of youth. It's fresh, it's new, it's playful. And like we talked about, we were all creative when we were younger. Your inner child is your key to getting back to that creativity. They'll lead you there, they'll help you reignite it, because there's a child in you somewhere that loves to be creative, and reconnecting with them is the best way to bring that creativity into your life. The creativity's there, it's already within you. It's maybe just buried under some soil, like a bulb that's ready to spring forth and bloom like a flower. What can you do to make your inner child happy? What did you used to do and you loved it and you don't really make time for it anymore? You could start with something small and simple, like if you see something when you're out and about and it sparks a little bit of joy and you feel like, oh, I would have loved that when I was younger, get it for yourself now. I bought myself some shiny holographic dragon stickers that I saw while I was out. I just thought LTK would have loved those. LTK is the name that I give to my inner child, little tiny Kia. And I just felt like she'd have loved those stickers, so I'm like, I'm going to grab them, I'm going to get them, and I'm going to put them in my journal. They're stickers for kids, but who cares? Sometimes we have to let our inner child take the wheel to reignite our creativity. You could also carve out time for an activity, but really make an effort to try to see it through the eyes of a child. For example, I made some cookies. I did a little experiment to see if I could make them into like flower shapes for spring. I got the recipe a little bit wrong. They were still tasty, but they definitely weren't an aesthetically pleasing bake. But because I'd decided that I was just making cookies for the childlike joy of it and just having a playful experiment, I didn't really care how they turned out. I just had such a good time making them. And that's really what it's all about. That's the kind of fun, playful, childlike energy that I think we should all be channeling this spring. My third suggestion is to wear colour. Spring is such a colourful time. It's when all of the colours are kind of coming back into bloom and burst into life, and I think that wearing colour can help you really get into that creative and energetic space. Wearing flowy floral spring dresses all the time would be great, but it's not always practical. And let's be honest, especially in England, spring isn't always sunny. So today is a very grey day, and it's definitely not warm enough to actually wear spring dresses outside at the moment. But the items you wear isn't really as important here as just picking out something colourful. Here I'm only throwing on a casual cozy outfit of leggings and a jumper, but I just chose to go as colourful as possible to embrace spring. But your wardrobe doesn't have to be as crazy colourful as mine. This is just about wearing more colour than you usually would. So if you're someone that doesn't tend to wear much colour, maybe you could just paint your nails a colour that you wouldn't usually use, or wear some jewellery or accessories that are a bit more colourful, or maybe even if you're just really not that kind of person, wear some colourful socks, and you will know that you chose to add a little bit of colour in today, to add a little bit of sunshine to your outfit, and I think it might put a spring in your step, pun intended. So we've got the right mindset, we're channeling our inner child, we're wearing a bit of colour, And now it's time to get outside. Creativity and mental health go hand in hand, and you really can't beat the positive impact of getting outside for your mental health. Any time spent outside, I think, is just amazing for embracing spring and for nurturing your creativity, but we're talking specifically about spring inspiration walks. So I kind of try to do these for different seasons. This all started in autumn. I would go out on a daily walk in autumn and try to look for signs of autumn, but also for glimmers. If you don't know what they are, I saw this on TikTok somewhere. A glimmer is the opposite of a trigger. So something that would trigger you is something that would lead you to have negative emotions. A glimmer is a small thing that would spark joy or positive emotions. So I would go out in autumn, and on my daily walks I'd have like a little mission to find things that are autumnal, like mushrooms and colourful leaves, and things that would just make me happy or spark joy or spark interest. So this is what I've been doing in spring as well, and I think it's a really great time to start this because the world is coming back to life and there's plenty of things to look out for, even if at first it just seems like a grey, horrible day. I guarantee if you go out with the mindset to look for it, you're going to find signs of life and signs of spring. So little things like this are obviously looking for flowers. Are there snowdrops, daffodils, crocuses around? Have you seen the first daisies of spring? But this isn't just about finding flowers, it's also looking out for little buds. Can you see buds on the trees that are waiting to bloom, just like you and your creativity? Can you find small, young, fresh, light green leaves that you can see growing next to the older, darker green leaves? And you can kind of see the contrast between the old and the new life that's just pushing through. Can you hear the birds singing? Can you find little things that bring you joy? Obviously, we don't all live somewhere where we can necessarily just pop into a forest for a walk. If you can get into a place where you can find signs of nature, I feel like that's better because that's just like the energy of spring is so strong there, even if it's just going through your local park. But if that's really not possible for you and you live in a town or a city, I think if anything that just makes your mission more interesting because you're a little detective looking for signs of spring and looking for things that make you happy. Is there a plant that's pushing up through the cracks against all odds? Here it comes, just like your creativity. Is there a window display that evokes the energy of spring for you, or is someone's outfit particularly nice and spring-like and colourful? And don't forget, we're not just looking for signs of spring, we're looking for anything that brings you joy. Have you seen a poster or a shop sign that's got a really nice colour combination? Have you seen someone doing something nice for someone else that's brought you a little bit of joy and restored your faith in humanity? These all seem like tiny things and they don't really seem that significant, but if you're used to going out and about and kind of looking at your phone or listening to a podcast, there is something to be said for having a little mission in mind and being actually on the lookout for something. I think as humans, our brains are kind of amazing gatherers, and once you tell them that you're looking for something, your brain is going to reinforce that and try to keep finding it. So if you go out with the idea in mind that there are signs of spring and glimmers and things of interest all around, you just need to find them. The more you look for them, the more you see, the more you are actually going to find, and the more you're going to realise that you're actually really enjoying this. It's making you feel regulated, it's connecting you to this fresh energy of spring, and believe it or not, it is getting the wheels of your creativity churning. Because gathering little visuals and moments and ideas that interest you is the foundation on which you can build creatively and which you can kind of lead eventually to making something yourself. Whether it's directly or subconsciously, what you eventually go on to make and create will be inspired by all of those little things that you've collected from your spring inspiration walks. So I would recommend going on a little inspiration walk, honestly, as often as you can. Even if it's just for like 10 minutes, it's just that combination of getting fresh air and looking at the world through these kind of fresh spring-like collector's eyes where you're just looking for all the little things that bring you joy. I think this is going to be so important. Honestly, just going out doing this, thinking about these things is enough, but there are other ways in which you can actually collect these things, and this adds to reigniting your creativity as well. So can you take creative photographs of the signs of spring or the glimmers that you found? Can you write a little list when you get back home, and maybe you could add to it each day? Maybe you could do a little doodle of some of the things that you've seen, and maybe you could gather together photos, lists, doodles, and even turn them into a journal spread, but we'll get onto that later. Another suggestion I have is read, read, read. Is there somewhere in your daily routine where maybe you would spend 10 minutes on your phone, or you would watch an episode of a Netflix show and then another one and then another one? Can you just cut those activities a little bit shorter and inject just a few pages of reading into them? This can also fit in with reconnecting to your inner child, as a lot of us were a lot more bookish when we were younger. Reading is really a great way to spark your imagination. I mean, you can pick up a book and explore all kinds of different worlds, and giving your imagination that kind of novelty is really something that can get your creativity whirring. If you can pick up a book that feels spring-like or has elements of nature or spring involved, even better. I love reading The Secret Garden in spring. A little warning, first chapter, Weather in India, has some uncomfortably racist comments. I think it's because of when it was written. But once you pass that to the rest of the story that's set in England, it's a beautiful story, it's so wholesome. It really evokes the energy of spring for me, and this kind of idea that spring can be transformative. It can cheer you up, it can transform you as a person, it can just make your life better in every way. And another thing that I love about Secret Garden is that it just absolutely makes me fall in love with robins, even more than I already was before. We have a lot of robins around here, and I just feel like reading that book makes me notice them and their every move, and just reminds me of how adorable they are. I was just talking about that and a little robin just landed on the gutter outside. I have a bird feeder on my window and it's still kind of cautious to use it, but it's definitely getting more interested. I feel like it heard me talking about how much I love robins and it just had to come and check on me. I wish I got that on camera. I just saw his little beady eye poking around the corner. I guess paying more attention to robins and just how adorable they are kind of leads us on to the next item, which is to romanticize your life. I know you probably hear it all the time, but romanticize your life. I think somewhere along the line, the kind of idea of romanticizing your life has turned into make your life an aesthetic video. It feels like on TikTok and even here on YouTube sometimes, romanticizing your life is trying to make it look as pretty as possible for a shot, for a video. But that's not what I mean. What I mean by romanticizing your life is seeing the world through rose-tinted glasses, recognizing areas in your life where maybe you're just going through the motion and doing what you usually do, and taking a second to think, how can I make this more enjoyable for myself? How can I kind of revel in this moment more? And that can be as simple as putting on an ambience video. I love ambience videos for romanticizing my life. If I'm doing some work or doing a task that would otherwise be kind of mundane and boring, I'll have a nice ambience on in the background. These ambience videos can be a really great way to embrace spring as well, especially if it's like grey and raining outside. You can put an ambience on while you're doing whatever you need to do around the house or even the office, that's got birds singing and flowers and the sound of the spring breeze blowing through the trees. Another spring-like way to romanticize your life is of course having flowers around the house, and I think they really encompass this idea of romanticizing your life, because to spend your money on flowers just for the sake of having the joy of flowers, I feel is the whole essence of romanticizing your life. It's appreciating something even if it's ephemeral, it's fleeting. You know the flowers are eventually going to die, but you do it for the sake of enjoying them in that moment. And this is the kind of romanticizing life that I mean. It's almost to me the opposite and the cure for the mindset that we have sometimes, where if you're not productive and you don't have a tangible result and an outcome, then it's not worth it. I feel like that's really damaging. That's kind of the opposite of romanticizing your life. That's the opposite of enjoying the moment. That's the opposite of creativity. If we're focused on outcomes, results, productivity, only spending our money on things that are going to last and we're going to have something to show for it, then we miss out on all of the joy that we can get by enjoying the moment, enjoying the ephemeral, enjoying things that aren't going to last, enjoying the process just for the sake of enjoying the process. So this one is for you, especially if you're someone that doesn't normally get flowers because, oh, they don't last and what's the point of that? I want you to challenge yourself to see if you can enjoy the present moment instead of defaulting to the idea that not having a specific outcome makes something not worth it. And this next suggestion is kind of an amalgamation of reconnecting with your inner child and romanticizing your life, and that is to experiment and play. We've already touched on the idea of experimenting and playing with how you could dress differently, adding a little bit more colour in there, and how you could do an activity with a kind of childlike mind, doing it for the enjoyment of the process instead of the result. But now I'm talking more specifically about actually trying new activities. It really feels like a spring-like thing to just dabble in different hobbies. So if you've seen the first episode of my Cozy Hobbies Journal, you'll see that this is what I'm doing at the moment. It's really nice to try out hobbies for the sake of trying them out and seeing if you enjoy them, rather than starting them as a project where you have to have a final outcome, like we were just talking about with romanticizing your life. And it is hard to separate some of these ideas because they're all connected. I'm kind of repeating myself of what I said with reading here, but if you can find spaces in your life where you can switch out what you would usually do with just trying something a little bit new, then I think that's really important to do. Like we've said, it's not that you're not creative, it's just that in order to reignite that creativity that's already within you, you need opportunities and channels to express it through. And the idea of playing and experimenting with different hobbies and activities is a way for you to seek out how you like being creative. So I've been trying out different hobbies recently, and honestly just scrolling Pinterest, and if there's like a fun activity I want to try, I just have a go, put my own spin on it, don't really mind how it turns out because it's just for the fun of it. For example, I was looking at spring themed craft projects. I found people making all kinds of different paper garlands, and I decided that while I was spending time watching TV, I would also cut some flowers of different coloured papers that I had around. I spent ages cutting, and honestly this felt like reconnecting with my inner child too. Like when we were in school, a lot of us used to like cutting shapes out of paper and sticking them together. So I sort of put my own spin on this idea of a spring garland. I just used things that I already had around the house. I had this long piece of ribbon from somewhere. I think what I enjoyed about it the most was I had no specific expectation in mind. I didn't have an idea of exactly how this was supposed to look. I just enjoyed cutting out flowers, enjoyed sticking them onto a ribbon. It was fun to play with, it feels like spring, and now when I look at it up in my studio, it just reminds me to experiment, to have fun, and to embrace that playful energy of spring. Obviously we've touched on baking and reading and little craft activities in terms of hobbies that you could try out and dabble in. Hopefully the rest of my upcoming Cozy Hobby Journal series will help to inspire you with new things to try as well. But the last item that we talk about today is going to be a specific hobby, and that is journaling. And before I carry on with this topic, I did want to say a quick word about the journal that I'm using today. This is the Onion Skin journal. It was gifted to me and I'm so grateful because it really is the most unique journal that I own. It has these gorgeous translucent pages which not only do they make the perfect crinkling sound when you're like writing on them or flipping through them, which I find so relaxing, but it also means that the back of the page is just as nice as the front of the page. You have all these little gaps where you can see through to the things you've created at other times, and I just think it's so beautiful. I'd recommend it to anyone. So I have put the link for this in the description to this video. If you are here on my channel, then you probably already know how much I love journaling. Most of my videos are about journaling or linked to journaling in one way or another, so I simply can't not talk about it when we're talking about embracing spring and reigniting your creativity, because I think it's a great welcoming activity for anyone. A journal can be a notebook, a journal can be a scrapbook, a journal can be a photo album or a sketchbook, or a combination of all kinds of things. There's no right or wrong way to journal. The whole hobby is playful, it's experimental, it kind of encompasses all of the things that we've talked about in today's video. Like I spoke about a little bit when we talked about spring inspiration walks, there are so many different ways you can make a journal page. Hopefully my channel provides some ideas. If you've never tried journaling before, this is a great time to start. The spring energy is here, is a really good way for you to embrace it, and your first spread can be about your spring inspiration. So like we talked about, can you keep a list of the things you see on your spring inspiration walks, maybe the hobbies you've tried, jot down some little ways in which you've romanticized your life, or little things you've experimented with, gather those together, and it could be as simple as sticking your notes into a page. You could add some washi tape or some stickers to decorate it. You could have a bit more of an experiment and do some doodles based on your inspirations, kind of have a little drawer on the page. Like I said, there's no right or wrong, and you can do as much or as little as you like. So you could have one page that encompasses your whole spring. You can just keep adding little bits to it. You could even have an envelope where you just pop the list of inspirations in there and maybe keep adding to it. And that's very low maintenance. It's not demanding of you to make very much. Remember, we're not really that bothered about the result, we're just doing it for the process. It's just like a nice place for you to keep memories and to keep building on this little foundation that you're making for yourself to enjoy spring and reconnect with your creativity. Obviously then you could go to the other end of the scale. For every single thing that inspires you about spring, you could make a page or a drawing or write a poem. The possibilities with journaling are endless. Most of us will fall somewhere on the middle of that scale, but it's just nice to know that it's there when you're journaling. You can do a little or a lot. Some of us will enjoy the writing side of journaling more, and it will become more like our spring diary. You might find that you actually really like drawing, and remember, we're not talking about whether you're good at drawing, we're just talking about whether you're enjoying it. And if you like me, you might really enjoy the kind of cutting and sticking element. If your spring inspiration walks haven't been particularly fruitful yet, or you're really feeling like you want another way to kind of get into journaling and express your creativity, I would recommend getting some magazines, especially some that feel like they have spring vibes, and go through with the same mindset that you would on a spring inspiration walk, looking for things that inspire you, or things that look pretty, or things that feel spring-like to you, cutting them out and sticking them onto a page and making yourself a spring inspirations collage. That's just another fun way that you could approach this, and a way that I think really embraces most of the things that we've talked about in this video. And do remember that physically journaling with paper isn't the only way to journal. If you prefer the idea of digital journaling, that's a really great option, especially if that's more accessible to you. It doesn't need any materials, it's very low energy, and it's a nice fun way to tap into journaling if you haven't done it before. I personally love journaling physically with paper. You know I do it as often as I can, But to be honest, in the evening sometimes I feel low energy, I don't really feel like doing anything. Those are the times where I usually end up scrolling on my phone, and then I kind of wish that I'd ended up doing something else. So I've downloaded Shuffles. This is not an ad, I just wanted to talk about it because I've been really enjoying it lately. And instead of scrolling, I'll just go onto Shuffles, which is a Pinterest app where like you can click on different pictures that you see on Pinterest and it'll cut the items out for you and you can make them into a little collage, and it's so fun. And I'll just go on and I'll pick a theme in my mind. For example, here I just picked spring creativity and I just made a little collage about it, and it's so great because you can just keep adding stuff. You don't need any materials, and there's a whole community on Shuffles that I'm only just discovering. Sometimes I'm lacking inspiration, I'm not sure what I want to make a collage about, and I didn't realise there's all these different people who host competitions that can be as simple as make a collage about your favourite colour, all the way to weirdly specific competitions like design an outfit based off of a Jellycat toy. They're so random and you don't win anything, but I feel like it's just a really nice, it's like the same as having a journal prompt and creating pages based on it. I'll just sit down, find a random competition that someone's got, it gives me the prompt for an idea, and I just make a little collage. And I like watching the time lapse back, it shows you add in all of the layers. This is a really fun, easy introduction to digital journaling, I think, so I definitely recommend trying that out as well. So those are my suggestions. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that it's given you some ideas and inspiration for how you can embrace spring and how you can reconnect with your creativity. Let me know in the comments if you're doing anything to celebrate spring, or if you have any ideas to add on to this for things that people in our creative community can do to reconnect with their inner child and to help their creativity bloom. See you next time, and until then, happy spring. Bye!